Data sharing between recruiting and onboarding transitions. Types of fields that are shared from recruiting to onboarding. Requisition fields can be shown in onboarding. Candidate fields can be shown in onboarding, as well as offer-related fields can be shown in onboarding. Those fields, as well as the standard versions of those fields that are delivered by Oracle Taleo, and any user-defined fields that are created as part of your zone can be shared to onboarding. There are some exceptions. An example of an exception is EEO data. The EEO diversity data that is completed as part of a candidate application is not shared to onboarding. I would say, as a rule, 95% of all fields that are available on the recruiting side of the house can also be utilized on the onboarding side of the house. Those fields can be utilized in content items, on a user-defined form, and an email template utilized on a content page. They can also be leveraged for conditions in your onboarding process. Requisition fields that are shared are read-only when utilized in onboarding. Any requisition type field that you use in your content items, mainly a user-defined form, will only be view only. Those fields cannot be edited in onboarding. You can, however, edit those fields on the requisition itself, and any changes that are made would flow over to the onboarding side of the house. Remember, you still have to follow the requisition editing rules based on the status of the requisition that you want to edit. Offer-related fields can be shared as well. Offer-related fields are also presented in a read-only manner. That is inclusive of any user-defined fields. Because the source of record for offer fields is your offer panel, any changes that need to be made on the offer would have to be made on the recruiting side of the house. Those changes would then flow over to onboarding. Keep in mind, anytime you want to edit a field on your offer, once that offer is no longer in the draft status, would have to mean that you would need to create a new version of the offer. The only offer-related field that can be updated without creating a new offer is the start date, as long as your new hire hasn't been placed in a hired status. You can update the start date. For more actions, update start date on the candidate file. Candidate fields, those standard and user-defined fields, can be utilized in onboarding. Candidate fields are the only type of fields that are available in both recruiting and onboarding that can be edited. Any candidate field that's available in recruiting can be utilized in onboarding, and that data can be updated. An example would be name, address information, date of birth, social security type information, as well as any candidate user-defined fields or candidate submission fields that have been created in recruiting. Something else to take note of with your candidate-related fields is that any change that's made on the recruiting side will flow over to the onboarding side, as well as any updates to those candidate fields will also update on the recruiting side. For example, let's say that you've started onboarding for a potential new hire, and this person has had a name change. Maybe this is an individual that has gotten married between the time they apply to the position and the time they're going through the onboarding process. So let's say you have Mary Jones, who initially applied to the requisition. Mary is now going through her new hire process, and her last name has now been updated to Wilson. So Mary updates the last name field to Wilson in onboarding. Once that form where the update has been made is saved or submitted, That information will then update in recruiting. So when looking for Mary, you will now see the last name, Mary Wilson. Onboarding fields are user-defined fields that are created directly in the onboarding module. Any onboarding fields that are created directly in the onboarding module can only be utilized within the onboarding module. These fields are not made available on the recruiting side of the house. You have two types of onboarding fields that you can create. You have personal information fields. These are usually fields that are created about the candidate. An example would be direct deposit, or maybe W-4 fields that you create to support those processes. You also have transitions related fields that can be created. And these are fields that are usually based on the onboarding process itself. An example of these type of fields would be collecting and documenting orientation information that can then be sent out to a new hire in a notification. Thank you.